Today I want to talk about a new model that just came out, Kimi K3. It's a new model from Moonshot AI, and it's a well-loved series of models. And it's a particularly important time to look at models now that coming out from the Chinese companies is that we had really, really good models come out from OpenAI, from Anthropic. And now we want to see how these models that coming out from China compare to the leading models from the US labs. And the narrative that I see emerging more and more is that Chinese models are very close. And I've even seen some people say that Kimi K3 is like Fable level. So as always, we don't want to just trust the numbers. We also want to see what the outputs are. On this channel, I'm going to try and show you a few examples, but obviously this is only a subset that we can test, and do definitely try things out by yourself. So now let's take a look at 3D tests first. And I know we had quite a lot of these, so we're going to go through some of them pretty quickly, but just I still want to give you that feel. And then later on, I've also prepared some new prompts for you guys, which are really trying to go into that more kind of white collar work kind of category of work, which is research kind of task, visualization of data, that kind of thing. I want to see how good models are on that sort of tasks. So now we'll start off with some 3D tests for you. And I always like them, not because they're the most important, but they just give you a nice, really nice visual that we can quickly sense check what the outputs looks like. And this is the Acropolis. And this is a nice quick test that we can see. I'll just show you as well Fable here and GPT 5.6. And by the way, I completely appreciate how absurd that sounds, that we are comparing the most expensive, the most frontier models to Kimi. But my goal here is not to like dunk on Kimi or something like that. That's clearly a different kind of class model and expense of the task that you'll get. But I think it's important to calibrate. This is not the goal to say, oh, Kimi is a bad model or something like that. But it's important to calibrate and say, where are we really, truly, versus the frontier? And that's the goal here. So if I was to compare here, there are clearly some render issues here. So I think it's a nice environment overall, but this looks quite bad to me. See the columns too short here. Fable didn't actually do that good of a job here. I've seen better generations than this, but I think GPT is like pretty nice generation in here. So kind of on at least one 3D task, not so great. This one I actually think was quite good, so I want to show you this one just to kind of be fair also to Kimi. And what this prompt is to showing the build out of the pyramids over time. So which is quite interesting. It kind of has this complexity, and I think it did a good job here in terms of building this out. And if I was to do a similar thing in Fable, so while I think the environment is like nicer here in Fable, I think it did kind of fail a little bit in terms of, and I think what's really good about Fable generations, by the way, while we're looking at them, is this kind of dynamic generation is really good. But I think overall, like, I think what I liked about it is this kind of more dynamic build out that Kimi did that I think was a little bit better, I would say. But if you compare it to GPT 5.6, I think, okay, water issues aside, I think that's kind of a problem. But if I was to like quickly show this, I think that's like much more advanced generation in terms of level of detail and so on. Although that's actually quite good as well. So maybe, you know what, like this is probably one example where Kimi is like did pretty reasonably well. Different style, but I wouldn't say it's like a lot worse. But saying that though, there are definitely a bunch of examples. And this is the kind of issue we get a lot, is that like you get one generation which is like, oh wow, this is like close to the frontier. And I think that's the ones where people share on social media, right? It's like, oh yes, look at Fable did this and then Kimi did this. So, I mean, again, not to pick on Kimi, I don't want to like single them out. I think that's just a common issue with lower performance models, where it's not like you can't generate a great result. You could, but the stability of what you actually get in every generation, I would say, is quite a lot poorer. So like in here, I mean, the control stack, so can't really show you, which, I mean, is not great, but it is what it is. Hopefully you can kind of see how kind of not very well organized it is. If I compare this kind of Emerald City here with Fable or with GPT, this completely different level, right? So again, on one prompt we get good result, on another we didn't get much usable output from Kimi here. I actually don't remember this output, so let's take a look together. Yeah, so this kind of dinosaurs world, it's a shame. I think it's like meant to be the river, but it's almost like a tunnel kind of situation here with Kimi. So yeah, I mean, overall it's not like terrible. So I think, okay, we can fix like what the issues in a second go. But if you were to compare it to like Fable in terms of the 3D generations, I mean, look at the first of all, richness of the world, know what the issues, things like that. But what Fable is great at is creating this kind of natural, dynamic environments where the kind of takes it a step further beyond even GPT models. I think GPT models like more precise maybe, and maybe the like if I was gonna look at each individual tree here, like I think GPT is better, but it's kind of very static. You see, they're all kind of standing around. I don't know how this translates to your tasks, but that's kind of interesting. I thought that maybe the Fable like really pushes it further. Anyway, not about Fable, just kind of by the bias, kind of looking at more generations. But again, just to give you more of a feel of the kind of issues that I expect you to see with smaller models such as Kimi, is that like this is just not a good generation. If you compare, okay, you compare it to Fable and GPT were great, but even if I compared it to like a lesser model, I think I'll definitely get better generation. But equally, if I try this prompt maybe 5 times, I'll probably get a great generation, but somehow like the stability is not there. And I think, I don't know how you find it in your day-to-day work in terms of the level of stability, like how much you care about stability. But personally for me is that the stability is such an important element, is that quite often when I don't have time to do something, I would much rather use like overpay for a model and I just want to get it right first time, rather than having to like go back and forth and like save a bit of money, maybe save a bit of tokens and actually not necessarily get a great result. So for me, stability and reliability of models is super important. Like if you look at this one, right, I would not necessarily say, oh yes, like Kimi is worse right here. I think maybe like Kimi maybe is, okay, maybe not quite better than Fable, but like, I know you could reasonably put them side by side. I could make this social media post and say, oh, look at this, Kimi is as good as Fable and GPT 5.6. And maybe on this generations, this specific generation is not unreasonable. But we've seen a bunch to know a little bit better. So anyway, maybe we should go past, I mean, I have so many, guys. Maybe I feel like I want to show you like a couple more. But anyway, like 3D, not the most important thing, but it's nice to see them at a glance. And this one is a kind of a game prompt. So that was actually interesting from, I thought gaming was pretty good here. So I think that was a nice one. Here, okay, it has to have actual water in it, which is a bit of a bummer. So it's meant to be Venice. But other than that, like controls actually pretty good. And left and right is not confused. Like it feels like playable. I mean, I wouldn't call this a game. Like it's kind of, I don't know what this is. But in terms of like, it's not a game you want to play, really. It's not engaging. All of the models are bad at this, including like Fable. I don't think they create particularly engaging games. this was not one shot from Fable, so don't like overreact, but I think I did try and make it like get it to do more ambitious work. But like, see how much better this is. Like, this is not close. Although like it felt like gaming was better than average for Kimi. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe it kind of indicates the areas where they were training. So I promised some other stuff. So let's take a look at that. So the reason why I'm interested in these kinds of prompts, and some will be short, some will be long, is that we want also, since this is agent arena, agent leaderboard, we wanted to do not just kind of one coding task, but also go out and maybe do some research, put stuff together, analyze the data, and create a visual output. I think a lot of white collar work is a bit like that, where maybe you are speaking to other people, you're trying to convince them of something, you need to go maybe do some research, structure your argument, present it nicely, and so on. And also in your day-to-day work, that's one thing I would actually recommend you do as well, is that do kind of put an effort and present data nicely. And as long as you make your own argument and so on, you can really use LLMs to help you make that argument. In here, the prompt that we have is that we'd like for you to research more interesting, impressive data set and visualize it. And I thought this was quite good. So this is earthquake data. By the way, they all kind of chose earthquake data or like something along these lines. I don't know what this tells about LLMs. I guess it's maybe nicely packaged data, or maybe there's like a blog post, most impressive data sets, and they all read it. But that's kind of interesting. That's not a bad UI, not a bad presentation. Like, you can imagine using something like this. So like, that's pretty competent to me, and like, that's put together nicely. So in a case where there's like data presented nicely, then this is maybe you can kind of pull it together in a not a bad way. It's not directly comparable because it's a different data set. I guess that's the challenge with this prompt, because they can kind of go different ways, so it's hard to compare side by side. But that from Fable was just one of my favorite generations in terms of like presenting the data in this Hans Rosling kind of way. If you haven't come across Hans Rosling, then you should check him out. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he's big influence on many. So yeah, and the GPT did a bit confused by its presentation. Maybe it is correct. It's kind of showing the storm. I actually don't remember this generation. That's kind of cool. It's kind of showing the different storms and how they went. That's actually quite nice. Yeah, so if I was to kind of abstract away from the presentations here, I think both Fable and 5.6 did more ambitious pieces of work, but this is definitely very competent from Kimi. Let's do like a few more. We have so many. I have 161 tasks saved, which obviously can't do all of them. Yeah, this is the same prompt, but again, and then, yeah, I decided to do earthquakes again, which I actually kind of like this generation better. That's quite cool. Yeah, so it has this kind of the tectonic plates, I guess, I'm guessing, and then it's showing the different, yeah, earthquakes. Although, like, you see, could have, in terms of like the level of ambition, I feel like it could have done a bit more in terms of this kind of visual impact of earthquakes, and I think Fable did this better. Yeah, it decided to do on. I should probably check out where they're getting this data from, because it feels like everyone decided to do the same thing. But you can see like that what Fable did much better here is this kind of really, really immersive way to show the same kind of data. So that is definitely like more impressive. But again, like pretty competent from Kimi. Like this is good stuff. Yeah, did everyone do the same thing? Yeah, that's funny. I guess it makes it easier to compare, so good for us. But yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. I think Kimi is doing reasonable work. Maybe we are kind of at a point where this kind of work is maybe a little bit low on the level of capability required, but it's certainly a good thing that Kimi can do this. Now, another kind of prompt, and this is actually PowerPoint presentations. And what it's asking here is that we'd like to research the market on AI models and help a business understand what kind of models would be suitable for them. So this is actually done like a few weeks apart, these prompts. So it could be that there's all the models, all the generations might miss something. But nevertheless, I want to see if see how to put it together. And PowerPoint is the kind of thing that, I mean, while I don't know if you care about it, a lot of the people in the world care about it just because they live on PowerPoint. So the thing that I want to pay attention to here, the thing that I really want to pay attention to here are things like just visual presentation, the depth of argument, depth of research, like did it actually research the right thing, did it structure it the right way, like things like that. Like superficially, that's not bad. Actually, it kind of lays out, here are the points, here are the key points. I don't love like the font and the visual. That all feels kind of, I don't know, kind of empty and dense at the same time. Like the font is very dense and so on. But the quality here is like overall doesn't look too bad to me. So if we want to look at this prompt, what this is asking for here is to research the market for AI models and help a business understand and make a decision about the AI models they should be using. So this is the kind of topic that we know about, so it's easy to navigate for us to assess it. What I'm looking for here when we put together a presentation, it's a kind of thing that a lot of people care about just because they do it every day. So if they can one-shot the presentation, that's a lot of benefit to the day-to-day work for a lot of people. So I want to see well-structured argument, I want to see well-researched information, and I want to see well-presented information. And here it feels like to me superficial, just scrolling through this now, I think this is actually not bad. I have definitely seen kind of worse presentations. Let me see, like Fable, like I don't know, Fable, it just kind of feels like a bit more old school here. Like, so I don't know, maybe it's kind of better than Fable at this, at least kind of superficial first pass. And if I look at GPT here, let me actually see, I think maybe the PowerPoint might run the better. I think sometimes when you, oh no, that's worse. I think that's more the rendering rather than though I think if you do see it kind of go in two lines, I think this is more like this. This is more of artifact of the PDF rather than the model screwing up. But this is certainly not like obviously better than what Kimi did. Like if anything, like that's not bad in terms of like the overall presentation. Maybe it's even a bit neater what Kimi did. So that's actually rather nice surprise for me in terms of the quality. Now, if I look at the substance, let's try and dig into this. Maybe it's not the most exciting thing, but there's no single best model, makes sense. Match the model to the job, fine. Recommend posture 3-layer hybrid, and embedded assistant for every employee. Okay. A frontier builders, Claude or ChatGPT doesn't quite make sense. Yeah, governance adoption. Yeah, so it's like frontier launches quarter. Yeah, it's like that. There's the thing with all of these things is that it's not like, I mean, some of the information is like just wrong. Like, why would you include like Llama 4 here? Like, or Mistral, like what does Mistral mean? Or like JLM 5. I mean, we have 5.2 already. So there's like some information that is just wrong. other information just like feels just very superficial. A lot of this stuff. It's just like not that it's bad, but I think if we think about these sorts of tasks, and I'm not saying, by the way, Fable, I'm impressed with Fable's work here either, or like with GPT. I think it's all kind of meh. But at least like GPT did do some visuals, so I think that's sort of like something, at least like a little bit nicer presented. But if our goal here is to convince like a CEO of something, there's nothing to like grab onto. I think you need to have some kind of insight that you are presenting and making an impact. And I think that just feels like quite superficial. But, you know, it is what it is. So I think it's just we should have higher standards for these sorts of things. And I think it's not so far. Yeah, another one like that. So CapEx investments. So I just want to see kind of how we did that. And again, similar, you can kind of feel the style. To me, it all feels very like old school, but it's like, okay, I guess. It would be nice if we kind of broke that up. I think we saw this from Mothers in terms of breaking it up. Oh, I opened the wrong thing. In terms of like breaking it up. Yeah, like this. But numbers seem to match, right? 7, 10, 3, yeah, so 2025 doesn't match. Who knows who to trust? Like it's maybe like different definitions or something, maybe different scope. But yeah, it's like, again, it's fine. It's fine, but I'm not super impressed with these kinds of generations. I want to show you just a very quick random one. I didn't really do like a bunch of SVGs, but just like to show you, I think you probably might see like a bunch of SVGs from Kimi where it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I think they did do some good job here because this is like quite good, probably better than Fable on SVGs, like especially that was the first one. And yeah, GPT kind of did okay here as well on the Mona Lisa. So yeah, if you do see some nice SVGs, you know, maybe it's reasonable. But you know, do you care? The last category I want us to dig into is the new set of prompts. And the idea here is that it's a little bit similar to the kind of pulling the presentation together, but maybe pushing it more forward. So the structure of the prompt is like, you have 60 minutes. I mean, the 60 minutes thing to just kind of push it a bit harder. And then you, for example, in here, we need to recommend AI meeting assistant for 200-person company. And you need to do like this research, and you need to, critically, we want to look at the visual, because like if I just showed you a block of text, like that's not very interesting. And we want to push the models to really present this information nicely. And that's what I mean as well, that I think we should care about this, because if you want to make an impact, whatever your work is, like pretty much almost anything, you want to make an impact in terms of the kind of decision making or something like that. So if you just present a block of text, that's not so good. But now you have these tools where you can actually shape your argument in a much nicer way. And what we want to see here is a bunch of kind of data presented, like which AI meeting assistant is better. And I kind of like what it did here hypothetically. I mean, admittedly, this doesn't work at all. Like, not sure what's going on there. Like, it's probably just visuals not working. Oh, that's kind of nice. But it's kind of created this calculator thing, which I think is a good idea if it had worked. But that's not a bad thing. I could imagine bringing into the meeting room and be like, okay, what do we care about? Like, is this or that matters? I mean, underlying data is all questionable, but and this is kind of broken, but and I think it's not making recommendation that I would make, but anyway. And yeah, where's granola? Like, they should be making granola recommendation, surely. It's a nice one. And then another thing we should look at is like, did this present it nicely? I mean, we've got this classic ugly brackets that everyone hates, sloppy ones. I think kind of everyone did a version of it. And I think it didn't do a very good job presenting. Like this feels very dense, very heavy, like kind of okay. I don't particularly like love it. So Fable, first of all, in terms of recommendation, it's kind of interesting in Fireflies, and I'm got no dog in this fight, except I do like one specific one that no one's recommending, granola. There's granola. There's no one's liking it. Anyway, not sponsored by granola, but yeah, I'm sure others are good as well. So yeah, Fable I thought presented fine. I guess yeah, that's kind of also nice, and it kind of shifts that. So yeah, that's maybe okay as well. And I think so. Let's look at it again. But I seem to remember like looking at a bunch of these things that GPT I think did a better job actually. Okay, UI is like a little bit still ugly in terms of like overlaps and so on. That's kind of stupid. But in terms of the, for example, in here, that makes more sense to me in terms of like aligning. You kind of want to maybe 2x2 here, presenting data that way. So that feels like a better answer here. Yeah, I still don't love a lot of like the styling, but I think GPT here is quite a bit better. And if you come back here, it's like, I guess the question is like, if you were working on this and you got this kind of answer from Kimi, like what's the amount of time that it would take you to like get it to a point that you're happy with it versus others? We don't have quite tests like this here, but you can certainly try on the agent arena, kind of see how far you can take it, and kind of your day-to-day work, like whether I think that's the key thing to pay attention to, is like how long does it take for you to get to a point that you're happy? Because if it's going to take you like, I don't know, half a day, then like why use a cheaper model? If it's going to take you maybe 1 or 2 prompts and you're happy, then maybe that's good enough. So let's look at the another one. So what we want here is reconstruct the publicly documented global supply chain and assembly of Boeing 787 Dreamliner. And again, a bunch of requirements here. So again, what I care about here is that like I don't know this data, right? So I can't fact check, or I don't even have like any intuition for like how correct this is. So I wanted to like convince me and present to me, imagine if I'm an exec and they're showing me this information for whatever reason. Like, is this convincing me? No. Like, I have no idea what's going on here, right? It's like, okay, maybe we can fix the render, whatever. But like, this is all over the place. This is kind of interesting, like in terms of where the data is coming from, and the longest chain, not so interesting. But yeah, this is kind of interesting, but maybe interlinking between them could be more interesting. So it's kind of something, but like if I got this in the meeting, I will have no clue what's going on, right? So that's not that great. So let's see what Fable did as a comparison. So in here, that's kind of cool. So it's showing me the actual plane. It's showing me kind of the build sequence that we've got, and kind of, you see on the right, it's also showing me where it's coming from. So it's taking me through that that kind of argument and puts it together and presents to me in a nicer way. And that's what a lot of the white collar work is like, at least, you know, the white collar work I have come across, is that you need to kind of step into people's shoes, convince them, make an argument, that kind of work. If you're just kind of collecting some data and just like spilling it out, like that's not going to convince anyone. So I think that's like a step in the right direction. You know, but it's amazing, but it's actually going to be great. I think we're not quite there yet. But let's see what GPT did. I think the plane is kind of funny, but I think this is kind of nice. I mean, I don't like when GPT like does these big websites, but this is like a little bit nicer. I think I like the plane better if it had fit in, but maybe just my screen as well. And I wish it did the map better. The geographic concentration, yeah, I think that's not bad. And I think it's kind of done the presentation of the evidence a little bit better. So look, I think this might be a kind of debatable point, but I would argue here is that I think they're all not quite right, to be clear, but I think Kimi is so far away that it would just, like, I think it might be easier for me just to do this manually than like keep prompting. In here, maybe Fable is like the closest in terms of like the core elements being put together nicer. Although I think here something's going wrong here. And like GPT, I think has like the nicest overall layout here. So like at least like I feel like I could use that in a meeting kind of thing. So yeah, it's like what I'm looking for is that, is this actually gonna like radically make my life easier or not? If I'm tasked, if I'm an analyst and I need to do that kind of work. And I don't feel like Kimi was like that useful in that case. But not that they all were, to be honest. But let's see. Let's take a look at a couple more and see what we think. So this one is AI data center build out. So we want to look at the infrastructure for training inference, and we want to identify 30 data centers that are focused on AI. And let's see. Oh, I'll just scroll through this. Like, and it's kind of, the website is not bad, but obviously the Earth is like, you guys seem to be like building things in the ocean. Yeah, so that's obviously bad. So I think it's more implementation decision was bad, but that's kind of interesting. Does that make sense though? Oracle, Microsoft, Humane, like, like I feel like a lot of other companies are missing here. Like it was Nebius, for example. Like I'm sure I saw something about them building others, like Microsoft. Yeah, too. Anyway, I'm not an expert in this data, so it's hard for me to like be sure in terms of the data research quality, but I feel like something is a little bit missing. But you can see the jump in the quality here by Fable, like instantly big jump. All right, so I think others I was kind of a bit less sure, but like here is not even a contest, right? This is much nicer presented data here. So I think Fable is like way better than Kimi, which is, again, I realize slightly absurd thing to say, but I think it's important, right? When you see this on social media and people say, oh, Kimi is just as good, you know, again, nothing against Kimi. I think they're doing an excellent job. I think they've really like pretty. Remember Kimi, the creators of Kimi Moonshot, they like pretty new lab. At least they may be. Actually, don't know the history, but in terms of their latest models, Kimi K2.5 was like what, less than a year ago, and they got into that frontier-ish kind of maybe second tier labs like pretty quickly. That's pretty awesome. So it's not kind of a argument against them, is that to just say like where are we truly. If I look at GPT here, I'm slightly confused by all of the different like triangles and so on. Maybe I think it's here, maybe it's like the legend's not quite showing. But anyway, that's actually quite clear apart from this, if I understood that correctly. So I think that's quite nice. Oh yeah, I've selected Europe, that's why it looks wrong. Yeah, so I think that's quite cool. And if I was to look at the data here, I think it's like, you know, sometimes like for GPT models, I really hated like the fonts that they use. That I don't know, it's just like everything just kind of a bit blah. Like here is better. Like I feel like it's getting a little bit better. So I feel a bit nice about that. So again, coming back to the point here is that I think this is like quite far away from the point where like Kimi is like super usable for this. But maybe if you're just using for research, maybe just as good. It's hard for me to like be sure when we're doing the comparison, but it's possible. So let's try another test. So I think this was kind of interesting. So yeah, it's kind of maybe a task we can relate to a little bit more. And I do recommend, by the way, for your day-to-day work, chores, just kind of maybe a web project you want to do, and I have certainly done something like that, is that pick something like that as kind of annoying task, like shopping, and get the models to do it for you, or at least help you research. So practical family grocery basket across 5 major retailers serving Manhattan, New York, and put 25 categories, blah, 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 and kind of then we're doing the comparison. So that's the idea. So it's something you can imagine like sending to, I don't know, your mom or something, where you can be like, oh yes, I have done this, you know, that would be nice. So maybe try that. And what we want here again is, research is hard for me to judge because, you know, I don't live in Manhattan. I don't really know how accurate this is. But I'll just assume it's probably not like completely stupid, or at least like you can maybe iterate your way into it. But what I'm looking for is like the quality of presentation. I could actually someone use this. Like, and it's like, it's not too bad. I mean, it's not the best website. Like these ugly brackets, where are they coming from? Honestly, I don't understand. But yeah, I think it's like reasonably usable. Like maybe putting some logos would be nice. So I want to take a look at a couple more of these, and the shape that they all have are similar for this purpose. Is that we want to give it some research tasks, think about how to present it, and then kind of show me basically the data. So in this case, what we want is that we want to audit what NVIDIA management said would happen against the company, and what happened, basically. So it's like research, investor relations, blah, blah, blah. So let's see. And I kind of want, again, in that knowledge work, I wanted to have good judgment about like what data to use, how to present it, and so on. And I think in here, that's a little bit hard for me to see. So this is like, oh, that's kind of nice. So it's kind of saying here, like Blackman demand will well above supply and discontinue to expect next 2 years, and then evidence used and so on. So delivered. So yeah, so what we can see here is statements made, delivered, and like we're marking those. So that's kind of nice. Like I think it's not the nicest way to present, but like it's kind of not terrible. Like I think you can maybe see how with a couple of iterations you can make that better. But I think in terms of research, like actually not bad. Like going through all of these and kind of pulling this together and analyzing, that's not bad at all. And let's see what others have done. So this is Fable in here. So what NVIDIA management said would happen, what actually reported, ugly brackets, classic. So let's see. So yeah, this timeline is not bad. Oh yeah, and it's interesting. So in here, it kind of classified it further than what Kimi did. And then they kind of lay out quarter by quarter. And then we can see, yeah, this kind of judgments. Oh yeah, product roadmap, how it did. Yeah, I think this is obviously cleaner, right? In terms of versus this, like you would prefer that. The quality of information is hard to judge for sure with like reading everything, cross-checking everything. It's probably similar, I'm guessing, like at least like one doesn't look like a lot less than the other. But I would say Fable is like far better in terms of like actually nicely presenting the data. And GPT here, it's like, I feel like it's a little convoluted, but maybe if I had like a bigger screen here, maybe it would be nicer. So yeah, it's, I think it's like a little big, but certainly like, yeah, maybe it's just a lot of information to fit in. But one thing I don't particularly like love about GPT models is that they all kind of create like a website almost. but like this is not really meant to be a website. So if I was prompting this further, I would ask it to cut this whole thing out and just kind of focus on this and kind of try and make that more condensed. So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of GPT is like a little bit confusing, but it's not all kind of that kind of scrunched up and overlapping. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, you see, it's much harder to judge these things. And what I'm trying to estimate in my head is like, how much more work is it for me to kind of get from this point to a point where it's super, super usable and I'm happy to present. And I'd say for all of them, it's some work. But yeah, it's for Kimi, I would say it feels like a lot more work. But see what you think. It's obviously your task will map differently to the work that you do. So this one, I want to close on this because it's quite a nice visual one. And what I like about this is that it's kind of a task that I actually highly recommend that you do as well. If you plan a trip that is a bit more complicated, build a website for it. Like you can share with your friends who you're going with, and then everyone knows. You can kind of track your location, give you like where you are, where you're meant to be. Like it's quite nice. I've done this myself. So it's 1 day hike in the Swiss Alps, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of gives this idea. But the thing that we wanted to do is that we wanted to map out this kind of route of where we are meant to be going. And I wanted to kind of render and show where we are. And it's kind of cool, right? That's not bad. Again, like, I don't love how much stuff there is on the website because that's like the only thing I care about with the thing on the side. And it is like a little bit jittery and kind of hard to see. But it is certainly like, it's not like crazy far. And I like that it's like a 3D map and has like typography here, elevation as well. So that's quite nice, I think. Like you can almost see how that's actually usable. Do I need rejected ones? Maybe not. But anyway, that again, way too much information here. If I was prompting this, I was asking it to cut down like quite a lot of this. But certainly not bad. But let's take a look at Fable. Interesting, right? So Fable went, I actually have no idea how it did this, but it did this kind of crazy, like very in-depth map. Let's just start. It's like this kind of 3D map. Fly the route. Where am I meant to be going? I think Kimi at least was clearer where I was. But this is amazing. Right? I don't know, how did it do that? I'm not even sure. I think I'll take a look. But the fact that it did this kind of super 3D and it's not jittery, it's not buggy, I think that's super important. And I can kind of go through all of these. And you see what I really like? This is the kind of thing where I think Fable is very good at, is that if you ask it to create something like this, it kind of abstracts and I think it understands what you're trying to get at, rather than, oh, I want a website, right? I don't want a website like this. It's not a landing page, right? There's a kind of one-off thing that I'm trying to do, which I think that Kimi was a bit guilty of, and GPT models do that as well. So speaking of, let's take a look at GPT. I think less this kind of less realistic. And I think they're slightly floating, but I think that's quite cool. Again, it's like, at least it didn't do a lot of this kind of data on top. And I kind of created the website, you see, with like all of this stuff, which I didn't really ask for. Oh yeah, and we see this little circle moving through here. So that's kind of quite cool. Yeah, with the elevation as well. I don't know, I think it's kind of a little bit unfair because it probably doesn't quite fit on my screen in here, so that's why it looks a little bit buggy, but that's quite cool. In terms of the quality of the hike, who knows which one I like better. This kind of looks cool, but kind of hard. This is, oops. Yeah, this kind of looks pretty good. Not sure I quite like this one, but maybe it's the most realistic one. In terms of Kimi, I kind of went in and said, look, like we really need to compare this and give you a bit of a feel, like where does Kimi stand versus the top and the best leading models. And fundamentally, that's not really fair to compare. Like Kimi is not charging $50 per output, right? So the price difference is insane. But equally, I don't want you to be confused at the end of the day looking at your social media streams and being like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it's all, they're all at the same level because there's one benchmark said that it was so, and someone shared like a nice generation, and you're like then going away thinking that that's true. I don't think it's true at all, nor it's expected, right? These are, one models are super, super expensive, the most frontier models, and others are catching up and approaching this kind of frontier quickly. So I don't think we should have this kind of expectation. But nevertheless, I think it's really important to keep us grounded and make sure that we use these models and hopefully get a feel for how these models are progressing. And you get a feel for where we actually are in this development. So I encourage you to keep trying the models, go in the arena, try them out, see what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next one.